Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome back. Welcome back for another coffee with me, Francois. And I'm really happy to have you here this morning once again. You make me happy every morning. And I really appreciate the time that you spend with me. If you're watching the recording, welcome. You're just as welcome. Just as long as you have a coffee while you're watching the recording, that is the most important thing. And when was it? On Sunday, I think I said it wasn't Sunday. Was it on Saturday? I think I said I'm going to change my background, and I did. I did change my background, and I made it interesting, or I thought I would be, but then it didn't work at all. So those of you that may be thinking, he said he's going to change his background, he didn't. I tried to, because I've got some great ideas, but then my wife came up with a fantastic idea, and I'm definitely going to do that as soon as I can get out the house, because I need to go get some stuff that I can put up against the wall. So I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to do. It's also time to change the poster again. Unfortunately, I only have two posters currently. I have Iron Man, and then I have Captain America, and so I've got one other poster that I may use. I'll see what it looks like. But yeah, it's time to get some more interesting posters to keep you interested in what's going on. But anyway, talking about interesting, I think today's topic is very topical. It's very relevant. And now that people have had a chance to work a bit from home, I think we needed to talk about this. And although I've been working from home since 2015, 2016, we've been doing this, both me and my wife working from home. We know how it goes, but I thought, let me get in a guest, somebody who's also done this for longer than me and who's actually done it from different places in the world, and someone that can really add a lot of value, and someone that also understands business and business culture, and, how businesses should, how they could implement teams that work off-site or remotely or from home successfully. And then also, how do you set up those employees and all of that? So there's a whole host of things that I want to get to, and I'll introduce my guest in a second. I just want to see the comments are already going semi-crazy. So thank you very much for that. It's great if I don't have to remind everybody that you need to say hi when you are here. Please say hello. Otherwise, I don't know you're here and I can't say hello to you. So please do that. And also remember your comments, your questions, because maybe you have a lot of questions today. Please post them in the chat. I'll get back to them throughout the morning or throughout the session, and I'll answer those as best as possible. And also my guest will also help us to answer those questions, obviously. So any questions you may have for me, and even something that may not be related to today, you're also welcome to ask. And good morning, Chart and Shlanganani and Neil Phillips, Jen, Mackay, you must let me know, Jen. I can't remember how to say your surname. Salome, Kevin, welcome back, Kevin. It's the second time I'm seeing you here. Good morning, Renata. Nice to have you here. Bronwyn and Shahida, thank you very much. Good morning, Mr. TT and Mr. JV, Johan Vossler. They're all the way from Germany, I think. You never confirmed with me if you're still in Germany, but I'm pretty sure you're there. Johan from ComSpace. Then Linda Erasmus. Linda, welcome. Thank you for joining us once again. I really appreciate it. I'm not going to spend a lot of time this morning greeting everyone like I usually do. I want to get into the session because there's lots to cover. I've got lots of questions that I want to ask. So let me just see quickly. So over on the YouTubes, you can say hi there in the chat. I can show people on the screen. And don't let it be like, if you don't want me to put it on the screen, then, I know you're not going to comment or say hi. But Jaco, good morning again. Jaco is also in Krugersdorp. Thank you very much. So I said hi to him. I bring my own comment onto the screen. Neil Strydom, good morning. Welcome you on YouTube. You're usually over on LinkedIn. Then I've got Razan. Good morning, Razan. Thank you very much for joining us again. Razan is from Profile Me. Definitely something you need to check out. Then Arun, welcome back, Arun. You're now a regular. If you go four days in a row, then you become a regular. So welcome. Elmin, you as well. Thank you very much for being back. I appreciate it. Good morning, Barnett in Durban. How are you? Nice to have you here. Good morning, Louis. Thanks for that WhatsApp earlier. I really appreciate it. Good morning, Nick. Welcome back, Nick. So 2 more to go. Then you're also a regular. Stuart, once again, good morning. Thank you very much for being here. Yes, I'm pretty sure this is going to be jam-packed, you'll see. Matthew, welcome back. I really appreciate it, guys. Sure. Arun says good morning to Innocent. So I'll introduce her now in a second. And then Farnes Beekers, good morning, Farnes. And Stephen L, back again. Thank you very much for being here. Guys, I'm really, really excited. This is the most people we've had live on YouTube, because I can see the numbers on here. And also on LinkedIn, the same thing. So this is telling me that this is obviously a topic that a lot of people are really interested in, and that a lot of people need to talk about, and they want us to talk about it. And I'm really excited. So, my guest is, as I said earlier, she's been around for a good while. She's worked, internationally, and there she's been part of big teams. I'm going to let her tell you the whole story. But she's been part of teams. So she was managed as part of a remote team or a work from home team, whatever we want to call it. And I'm going to start off with, I want to know what's the difference between the remote work and working from home. But so she's done that. She's also managed teams remotely. So we're going to talk about it from both sides. So if you are somebody who has a team that needs to work off-site or that needs to work from home now, because it happened so suddenly, we're going to talk about that and what's happening. Is it working? What do we need to consider? And then also, obviously, from the person who is working from home, because a lot of people are not used to it. And I had a long conversation with my wife last night, and there's some strong words that came out because of how I feel about certain things and how I felt about things for a long time. So I'll also probably, if I remember, I will also share those things with you. And but on that note, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to Innocente Burger. Innocente, welcome to Virtual Coffee with Francois, my little live show every morning from 8 a.m. until 9 a.m. Thank you very much for joining us, and I look forward to having this chat with you.
Thanks so much, Francois, and thanks for the invite. I'm so happy to be here and to take information and knowledge that I thought everyone knew and share it with the world.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing. I think a lot of businesses maybe just assume that, go work from home. Things will just continue as per normal. But I think what a lot of people did not take account of is the fact that, the husband or the wife is also there and the kids are also there because we're in lockdown. This isn't a normal work from home kind of situation, in my opinion. Anyway, so I'm telling people, look, nothing much has really changed in my life because me and my wife both work from home. We've been doing it for a long time. We actually enjoy doing that. And there's a lot of things that we experience that one of my highest values is, so my highest value is learning. And then the second highest one is freedom. And it's all about I want to work when I want to work, and I want to do other stuff when I want to do other stuff. It's not about being able to just go out and do whatever I want, but I think, when you design your life in a certain way, it's easier. But if you get thrown into all of this stuff, it's quite hard. And I want to start off, Innocente, by just if you can just quickly give a brief background about yourself. What is your history? What is your experience? What is it that you do? Just so that people can get a bit of a better idea, who you are and what you're all about.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Francois. Hello, everyone, and hello, Arun, specifically. Thanks for the warm welcome. So, yes, I am a human capital consultant, and I help companies optimize performance and productivity in businesses. And I do this by taking a look at the strategy of business, not just the strategy of HR, but the strategy of business. I take a look at things like what the culture of the organization is like. Can business leadership support the strategy and the culture? And then how do we manage performance and productivity in organizations? That's what I've been doing since 2017, when I started my own company, PerformForward. Before that, for 13 years, I was in the marketing industry, and we were running outsourced marketing. And from 2004 to 2017, I basically only worked virtually. I, in that period of time, maybe met 2 of my clients in real life, and the rest were all overseas, and I never saw any of them. It was literally via things like, we were still using Skype then, heaven forbid. We were using things like Slack and Workplace and that kind of way, and emails, and to manage all of these relationships. And it's amazing how initially you feel so stunted because it's kind of like this person's on the other side of the video. And I don't think we realize how sensitive we are to non-verbal communication. And when we do this, the first thing that you sort of feel, but you don't realize you're feeling it, is I can't see their whole body. I can't see their hands when they speak. I don't know what they say. And then if you add to that cross-cultural complexity, trust me, anyone who's worked with someone in France will tell you And our methods are very different to theirs, as we are to many other countries. And so my passion is at this point in time to take this information that I've lived with for so long and make it available to people and really answer their burning questions.
That's cool. So now I'm even more excited to get into all of this, because we can talk about a lot of things from a theoretical and academic point of view and how we think things should work. Oh, I'm already struggling with my words here. Sorry, guys. It's early in the morning here in Krugersdorp. I don't know what time it's there with you, but for me, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. So I'm trying to get there. But so we can try different things, and there's two sides to this. So obviously, hearing from somebody like yourself who's got the actual experience, you've done it for a long time, you've used apps and things that are very topical at the moment, long before they were that topical. I mean, the latest things I'm looking into things at the moment, obviously into Microsoft Teams as well, but then also things like Discord service and that, and that's a fantastic tool, But there's people that's been using some of these things for a very long time and that we don't know about. So a lot of people are going to only learn how to work from home, and they're only going to learn what it's like to communicate like this. How do you connect with people? How to look into the camera? Simple things like that. Things that maybe it doesn't come naturally unless somebody makes you aware of that for that reason. But I think the power about today's session and the questions I want to ask you is going to come from the fact that you've done this. So there's going to be very practical. Let's cut all the things that don't really matter, all the theory and the stuff like this is the stuff that works, and you got to see how it works for you, and then also adapt it a little bit, from that point. All right. So with that, I want to start off, like when I opened, I said I wanted to sort of figure out, what is the difference between working remotely and working from home? Because again, like so many things, people are using these words interchangeably, and they're not really the exact same thing.
They aren't, and it's such an interesting concept. And firstly, I just want to say that I think the essence stays the same, and that is that we work from a place that is not a structured office, that is not a corporate office. So when we say work from home, we think of someone is just sitting in their home. It feels less professional. And so we talk about working remotely instead. It also means you could be working from a coffee shop and not necessarily your home. I don't think there's a right or a wrong way of doing it, but I think what's happening right now, and that really sort of hits me really hard, is I've had a fantastic career for more than a decade working from home or working remotely, where it was properly planned. I walked into a company, there was a company strategy around who gets to work from home and who not. Why are we using this? How do we use this within our company to make it work for us? So, for example, one of the reasons why we work from home is I have clients in Australia, in Europe, and America, and, well, also India and Singapore. So what would happen is I landed up working 2 hours from 4 till 6, and then taking a 2-hour break, getting my house and stuff sorted. Then I could work a couple of hours during the day, maybe 5-6 hours, because that's when Europe needed me online. And then I could take a couple of hours, and then I could work another hour or two with Canada and America in the evening. So I think that I'm going off my topic now, but there was a structure, there was a particular strategy on why we did it, and we had a company culture that supported it. It wasn't just what we see now. Oh, there's panic. Here's a notebook. Go home and tell us if it works. When you work from home, there are a couple of things or when you work remotely, there are a couple of things that don't happen when you work from home as we do right now. Firstly, because it's planned, you've had an introduction and an induction into how this works. You've had time to test the facilities and all the logistics and set your time up. You've had time to think about, how do I structure my family around this? Because I work from home with an 8-month-old puppy. And trust me, it takes a lot of structuring to make sure that I keep him busy. Normally it wouldn't be a problem because he'd be at daycare, but now he can't be. And I think that's the layer that we must understand that we're experiencing that causes tension right now. It's husband and wife working from home. trying new technologies, trying to fit in the family structure, trying to explain to a 3-year-old why mommy and daddy cannot just be available because you can see them. Right now, I think, look, the numbers are astounding, but right now, many people who work from home might not necessarily be ill themselves, but they may know someone who's ill. Soon, with the numbers of deaths rising, we might have people who are in mourning. We might have people whose cultural norms are being defied by the coronavirus. How do I grieve, work from home, and I grieve, and I can't be with that person who's dying? I cannot be at that funeral. And I think we must understand that this is not normal remote work. For me, this is work from home with all the pressures of home and this additional coronavirus pressures. And I think we need to take that in account. If it wasn't for the coronavirus, this would have been much smoother.
Yeah. I just want to go back to, you said, working remotely can be from a coffee shop. I just want to say that maybe the majority of financial advisors have been working remotely then all their lives. Of course, we see so many clients. There's definitely a possibility there. And I've been talking about that we should stop doing that. But anyway, and that for me is really, I know you allude to that, but that is really the defining thing. Working remotely just means you're not working at the office. There's a massive difference between not working from the office and then working from home, because at not working from the office, it's white noise and it's people that you don't know and nobody comes and interrupts you or anything. But working from home, obviously, it's a total different ball game. So thanks for clarifying that. I think we needed to do that to have that clarity before we sort of can move on. And I mean, on that point, so you mentioned a lot of things. Suddenly people say there's a laptop. There's your LTE or your even L5G or whatever router key, and there you go, or use your home internet or whatever, whatever they had to do. There you go. Let us know how it goes. Figure it out, and you're on your own. So is there any sort of indication about how it is going at the moment, with people working from home?
I think that there's two very definite sort of sectors that we're looking at. On the one hand, we have people who might have had the technological and financial capacity to do this already. And we just didn't make that full transition. We were working from coffee shops. Now we have to work from home with a family. And I think for those people, if you are a smaller business, and this is the beautiful thing about being a smaller business, we so often think, I wish I was the next Accenture or Deloitte because they've got it all sorted. Trust me, it actually takes longer for those companies to move. It's much easier for a small little business to move to it, because we can go, okay, we'll take your stuff, go home. If it doesn't work, talk to me. We're close to each other and we can talk and we connect. We're not trying to manage 1,000 people that we all of a sudden have to shift over. Having said that, obviously some of those guys already have been working from home, but that being set aside. I think the bigger crisis that we have is that there's a sector of our population for whom it is not viable because there isn't LTE in their environment. It is not safe to take technology home. We've seen this actually a year or so ago when all the schools decided to give kids iPads or tablets to do homework on. And these things got stolen because there is a sector of our population that is just so poor that it is not viable for them. And I think that's actually where the crunch came down. For those of us who just haven't made the transition, it's a bit of training and we can make it happen. We just have to make the mind shift. And it's going to force, Corona is going to force that mind shift for us. But there are people for whom we really, they're much bigger fish to fry than just training and learning to make that mind shift.
Yeah, yes, I think you're hitting a few nails there. And this isn't, it's going to be a lot harder for some people than it would be for others. I think from a couple of sort of points. The one is that maybe they don't have the infrastructure and the environment in which they will find themselves is not conducive to working from home, but also then it's a huge, I think about like somebody like myself who's an introvert and I like being on my own and I get my energy from being alone and not from being with others. Although I enjoy being with others and that, but when I'm done with a session or anything, like this morning, I'm doing this show. Right after this, I'm doing a podcast interview with Hugo van Zyl to do an update on all the expat tax stuff and everything that's happened there. So it's a lot of effort from my side in terms of, although I enjoy it, there's every second I enjoy, but it does, drain my energy because I am introverted. And then you have people on the extroverted side who obviously they get their energy from other people. And it's hard to get that same level of energy that you used to get with a screen in between one another, So I think from that point, there's a few things that we need to consider. And on that point is like, what about efficiency then? What is happening to us being efficient? And I guess there's a positive and a negative side to this probably. Are we being more efficient? Are we not? What's happening on that front?
So it's quite interesting, but my personal view, for those of you who know South Africa or know Gauteng, I used to travel from Centurion to Sandton. Now that's a one hour trip one way. So the first thing that happens is all of a sudden I have 2 hours a day extra. Firstly, not having to deal with traffic is actually quite calming. It's amazing how much stress it relieves from you. But the other thing as well is those are 2 hours that would have been taken out of my personal time that I can put to better use. So I think there's a thing where the positive of this is we're going to learn that we don't have to get into our cars and go somewhere. Now, it's quite interesting. If you take a look at things like yourselves in the financial planning industry, much like me, I'm a consultant. We spend a lot of time driving to and from clients. That's time that we write off. We don't get to bill for. And so that is incredibly inefficient. And I think it's much more efficient for us to learn to do these things. I'm not saying stay away from the client entirely, but build the relationship, get into the car, build the relationship. Once the relationship is established, you could use things like Skype and Zoom. And for your guys in the financial industry, there's a lovely application called Sweetbox that actually allows you to sign real-time documentation and things, and it's got a little audit trail to it and everything. Start using that stuff so that you can rather have, I apologize.
Working from home, guys. Working from home. That's how it goes. That's the puppy. That's the puppy she was referring to. Yeah.
I think the one rabbit that we have in the estate has now come down the road. That's what's caused the excitement. Anyway.
No problem.
So what I think is happening is if we just rethink this concept that we have specifically as South Africans of, I must have a car and I must go places in my car. I think there's ways that we can transcend that. I think the inefficiencies is that we just need to think about the fact that, and in a small team, you'll notice it much faster, is that we can't all hear everything at the same time. So when we are 4 people sitting in a small little area, we don't need to send out that email, because when I'm speaking to Francois, our 2 other colleagues actually can overhear what we're saying, sort of pick up, okay, hold on, this is something I should be paying attention to. Okay, that's fine, I got the information, and keep going. And what we must notice is that the moment we work remotely, there is nothing like shared information. And so from that perspective, when we are goal setting, when we are hitting a problem, when we are sharing progress, do a lot more in team context. Share documents online. There are lots of document management systems, project management systems where we can actually all see each other's workflow and where we're at. It's not a way of taking, a lot of people go, oh, that's Big Brother. No, someone's checking that I'm working. It's about the fact that you must replace this osmosis of information in systems like that.
Yeah, no, that's great, and I think it leads quite nicely into sort of my next question that I want to ask you as well, is that taking all of that into account, obviously, and I think a lot of the people watching is maybe it's one advisor who's got one assistant, and I've like Wynand, a very good friend of mine. His assistant has been working from Rustenburg for quite a long time. I hope he doesn't mind me saying things like this. But she's been working from there for quite a while, and I'm talking about like a couple of years, I guess, if not longer. And it's working well. They've learned to communicate. They've learned to do things, and she operates from there, So there are people that's been doing this. But for a lot of advisors in the smaller practices, they are finding themselves in a situation where suddenly the assistant is not there, where they could say, just do this for me or get this for me. And suddenly there's a new way how we have to communicate. And I think that the risk is that you keep on interrupting the assistant and she can't get to do the things that you should do, because now every time you think about something, you're sending an instruction or a request, or you ask something, versus having a structure that we're going to talk in the morning and then you do your things for the day, and whatever you can accumulate them, either put them on one email or send the emails, but there's an agreement that she will check emails, not like as they come in. Maybe there's times that they check it, just to form some form of a structure. So that's on the one hand, we need a structure and a process around this. And I think that's maybe where people went wrong. And I'm assuming that maybe they didn't spend time on just how are we going to do this, guys? What do you think is going to work? Or they're just, okay, there's your laptop, here's my laptop, and now let's just see what happens. So I think maybe the people that planned it a little bit better, doesn't matter whether you got it right or wrong, it doesn't really matter, but there was some thought that went into it, and there were some ideas that went into it. So from that point, I think we need to go back to the drawing board if things are not working for you currently and you're frustrated. But then, I mean, what are some tips that you can give, or some ideas maybe, how should we go about setting up our workspace at home? Assuming that you've got a space that you can maybe dedicate for this, or, maybe let's say you don't. So let's look at both. There is a dedicated space or there's a dining room table. So how do we set it up for success?
So I think that the biggest thing is that for me, whether it's a dedicated room, which is always preferred, or whether it's the dining room table, I think what one can take a look at is there are little nooks and crannies in your house that actually don't always get used for what there's open space. Maybe at your front door, there's a little place where you can set up a desk. People aren't really going to miss that space, because what you want a place where you can go to the office. So the first thing that you want is a little space that you don't have to unpack and repack everything every day. It must feel like going to the office. It must feel like I'm getting dressed to go to the office, because the other thing is, one thing is about setting up your workspace, but your mind space has to be set up as well. And so when you pitch up and you're going to sit in front of your computer in your pajamas, it's not really efficient. So try to create a workspace that you don't have to pack and unpack, and where you can go and sit every single day, because it creates that discipline and routine. I think the other thing that's quite interesting, people don't think of it, but make sure that there's enough air and light where you sit. Very often people will sit in a dingy dark corner, but you actually have light receptors in your eyes that if it's too dark, have you noticed how on a rainy day you want to sleep and eat everything? It's because your body thinks the sun is setting. So Can I
just say that it doesn't matter whether the sun is shining or whether it's raining. I always want to eat. So I'm just putting that out there. But most other people, yes, they want to eat more when the sun's out.
Or while we are being transparent, lockdown munchies. I think I've eaten the house. I'm so glad it's not made of gingerbread. So what happens is, make sure that there's enough light so that you stay awake, and enough airflow for the same reason. The other thing is, at home there's not an IT guy, but there are a couple of considerations. Things like, make sure that when you are online, if you're using Wi-Fi, now a lot of us have really good Wi-Fi and fiber is becoming the thing, but make sure that you're close to a LAN connection, so that if your Wi-Fi goes down and you're in the middle of a call, you can just pop it in and come back and say, oh, sorry for the interruption, and keep going. Always keep things like, if you're working from your 3G, 5G, LTE, make sure that you have a little SIM card from another provider, so that if Vodacom or whatever goes down for the day, you can use your other card and keep going. Because one of the things that you do not want to do is, you do not want to be unavailable. Within reason, of course, I'm not talking about after hours. The one big thing about the difficulty for managers in managing remote teams is exactly what you said earlier. There's not someone you can walk past, see them sitting in their cubicle and quickly speak to them. What you want to do is, when you work from home, you want to be as available. So whether it is on Slack, email, whatever the case may be, just make sure that they don't send you a message and you don't answer for 24 hours. Or, they quickly send you a little WhatsApp or an instant message and you don't respond during business hours. So always make sure that your home IT is set up optimally for your availability.
And those are some powerful tips. I must say, it's and here's the thing. Now we all need to start thinking about the backup plans or the contingency plans or whatever you want to call them there. Don't worry. So we all need to consider, like, what happens if this goes down, or there is load shedding, or what do we do then? We've been very lucky so far, the fact that we haven't had load shedding up until now, because we had load shedding right up to about the lockdown started. So luckily that hasn't happened. But have you thought about what are you going to do? Because it's already hard enough to work as it is and to do business as it is. Now, if there's no power, what are you going to do then? And now you can't drive to the nearest coffee shop like I usually do. I go and sit at Doppio Zero because there's a generator and they've got access and all of that.
Yes.
Because the problem is that these days, when the power goes off, so does the cell phone signals and the 3Gs and the things. So it's a big problem. So we need to consider those things, or do you put in something at your home that can at least run your router and your internet and your computer, You don't need TV and fridges and those kind of things, but we need to start thinking about these things. So there's lots.
I think the other thing to consider, which is actually becoming much more prevalent with us, is the ability to hire hot desking space. Now, I find that a positive from two perspectives. Firstly, you can pay as little as 1,000, 1,500 Rand a month, and then you have access, let's say, for 48 hours of hot desking space in an office little complex that is set up to cater for these emergencies. It certainly is a lot cheaper than trying to implement a solar installation or something at your house. The other thing that I quite like about it, and, Francois, just close your eyes and go la, 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 la here, is that for people who prefer to have a bit of person interaction during the day, working from home can be a strain. If you're working from Monday to Friday, you were in an office, now all of a sudden Monday to Friday, you're all alone at home. So what happens is then you can go in and say, okay, I'm going to, on Monday and Friday, go in for 5 hours each for the entire month. And even if you don't get to know the people in the office space, which trust me that normally, you do, even if it's just a nodding acquaintance, it feeds a little bit of that interpersonal need as well.
Yeah. All right. I love it. So let me just quickly, we're halfway. Let me just quickly see if there's some more comments and things. I'm just going to screen through them. Usually I go through all of them. I just want to see what catches my eye. So yeah, Carl van Vieren says he's enjoying the info so far. Thank you very much, Carl. Let me just see quickly what's happening here over on LinkedIn. Unfortunately, I can't bring the comments up on the screen from LinkedIn as yet. So there's a compliment. Chart says women's touch is always better with decoration, so yes, make sure. Then let me see quickly. Everybody's saying hi. Johan Forster said yes, he is in Berlin. When I hear the word Berlin, I think Top Gun and I think taking my breath away. Then Frans Hatting is in the house. Good morning, Wynand Gous. Chart says, I think one of the biggest challenges for me is finding a space in my house to create an office environment. Staying in a townhouse complex, this is not easy. Yeah, because, space is limited. So I'm just going to run through some of the comments and think, and maybe we'll touch on some of the stuff now. Quibber says, Francois and Innocent, working from home or working remotely starts with your mindset. Working with technology while working from home needs a mindset adjustment. Most importantly, work from home is about creating an efficient and comfortable environment. I fully agree, and we can talk about the environment. We have been talking about it now a little bit, but it's like anything, if you work in a dingy office, it's not nice. You don't get work done. The same at your home. So you've got to create a space where at least it doesn't have to feel like work, or it doesn't have to feel very formal or whatever. That's not the point. Just the point is that it needs to be, you don't want to feel boxed in. Maybe, as you said, make sure there's enough light. There's enough air, because otherwise you get sleepy and you feel like I just can't get going, and you don't understand why. Let me see quickly. Johan Fosler says, check out, there's a link that he gave on LinkedIn to manage background noise during web calls. You can thank me later. Okay, I will do that. Crisp.ai. I will check it out with a K. Amanda, welcome. She's talking about Trello. And this is one thing, maybe let me know in the comments or in the chat if you'd like me to do in one of the episodes, talk about all the different technologies that one could use. I know I did speak a little bit about it in the episode about, doing business in the online environment. but maybe I can have a bit of a more of a structured conversation around the different software and applications and those kind of things that you can use, both from a free and a paid perspective, so that you know what the options are and what's really working, and so that you can determine what's going to work in your specific case. Hello, Johan. Johan Kluter, 11 o'clock last night, our fiber were down, then no internet, everything stopped. Yes. I'm glad I'm not the only one awake at 11 o'clock at night that will know that the internet went off. So, Johan, got you. Neil Phillips, I moved from my own single office paying a huge rental to shared office space facility where I still have my own office and we share a kitchen, reception and boardroom, save plenty of money and work extremely well. And this is something I want to, like, you know, as we get more to the end later on, I want to talk to you about like what happens after this. I think that's going to be very interesting, because I think there's going to be big implications for a lot of people, specifically in terms of office space and those kind of things. And then Linda says that clients don't all have access to same quality technology. What would you advise? So maybe that's something we can also talk about and get back to. All right, so let me continue with the next stuff, so that I don't want to run over time today. So there's still lots of questions I want to ask. In terms of family, kids, and work, how do we set that up? How do we deal with that? It's not so much setting it up maybe, but also just how do we deal with it? Specifically if you're a mother, because, you know, your kids is just not, especially if you've got small kids. Look, I mean, once they go to high school, they want nothing to do with you anyway. So they'll stay in their room and it's just their loud music that we need to sort out. But the rest of the stuff, yeah, so they're either on their phone or they're busy work. So that's fine. But when you have kids who are in primary school or pre-primary, you know, or even so we run an accounting practice called the Accountables. And Ida, who's the accountant there, and my partner in that business, she has, it's still a baby. I mean, she can walk in that already, but it's still a baby, you know, and she wants a mother. So how do you deal with those kind of situations where your kids is just, they won't necessarily understand when they're very small, you know, why doesn't, you know, and you're afraid that they're going to think that you don't have time for them. So do you have some ideas around how people can deal with that situation? Because I think that's one of the hardest things that we need to deal with.
I agree. Considering my dog has now barked 3 times during this call, I'm not sure I'm the right person to ask next. No, I'm joking. So I have a question for you. Why do you think we work an 8-hour day?
Just ask again.
Why do you think we work an 8-hour day? Who said that we need to start work at 8 and finish off at 5, and that we should work an 8-hour day?
I think some industrialist who was trying to get as much out of people as possible, and they focused on time. Yeah, and they're looking at time and they're not looking at output. I think that's the big thing.
Exactly. That rule comes from 1814. Now, we don't have a lot in common with the people who lived in 1814, but why are we sticking to it out of convention? So to answer your question, I think that this is entirely workable from 2 perspectives. One, if we can get rid of some of the industrial era thinking about how we work, about men in suits, about who is more important because they have an office or do not, I think we can make this work just as well. So, for example, trust me, when 2 women who are moms are on a conference call together, no one's going to worry about a kid interrupting, because it's not seen as unprofessional. They are seeing that they are balancing their values, that of creating value in business and being valued as a mom. When the kids are really small, it is kind of important to try and get someone like an au pair or daycare at least. For example, if you know your child is going to daycare Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, set up most of your calls for those days, so that if they're going to be interruptions on a Tuesday and Thursday, they're minimized, because most of your calls don't run on those days. Secondly, the whole concept that we have to be in suits and ties to be professional, it breaks the moment that you have this kind of information. I'm sitting here in a lovely top, but it is not what I would normally wear to a corporate office. I'm sure that you are in maybe a golf shirt or a t-shirt. Does that make us any less professional? Why do we hang on to these things? And then the other part of it is, when we take a look at how I shape my day to work across so many different geographies, why can't a mom shape her day around her kids? I know they're going to be out in the morning, so I will be available from 7 o'clock until 1:30. The afternoons I'll keep for admin time so that I can spend that time with my kids, and if they interrupt, it's not an issue. And you've actually hit the nail on the head. And actually, in some training I've released, I actually specifically state that the biggest shift that we need to make is specifically that we have to start looking at outcomes and not tasks. It's not about whether my bum is in the seat. It's about, by the end of the day, have I completed all of the outcomes, or by the end of a week, or by the end of a month? You know, the moment we start managing people on tasks, we micromanage. People are adults. They don't like being micromanaged. And it's actually quite difficult in a remote environment to micromanage. So you do automatically have to move to an outcomes-based approach. And then family and kids don't matter, because if I'm delivering my work, then that's all that's important.
Yes. Okay. Cool. I fully subscribe to that. And yes. So let me quickly share with you what I said to my wife last night. Is that for a very long time. In fact, when the year started, part of my planning in December was that I'm not driving to any meeting this year at all. I just didn't know that all of this is going to happen. It's going to help me achieve that goal, because I did still attend quite a number of meetings, because we're so into that mode of, yes, let's meet. Where are we going to meet? Where's halfway? Or do I come to your office? Do you come to my office? But there's one thing that irritated the living hell out of me since, like, when I was still in corporate, is driving from Krugersdorp to Braamfontein every day. That hour there, sometimes an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours, and the same when you come back. It is dead time. So I try to be creative. I listen to audiobooks, or I make phone calls, or I think, because we never take enough time to think. But it is literally, you can do nothing else. There's nothing productive you can do. And apart from that, let's just go back to your sort of what you were talking about when we drive, this time that we're wasting, and it's dead time basically. So remember, now you're driving to Braamfontein, you go work there for 8 hours. Let's just say we do the industrial thing. You go there for 8 hours, you drive another hour back. So that's 2 hours if you're lucky. That is time. If you're working from home, and this is how I think things are going to change. People are going to realize, like, suddenly there's less pressure. I've got more time for my family. I've got more time for my partner. I've got more time for my kids. I've got more time for my friends. It feels like suddenly I'm getting stuff done. And the simple reason is just because you're not sitting in the bloody car, wasting time. So you're using that time in order. And I think as the more people are going to realize that, and the more they're going to understand that, wow, this is suddenly, it feels like I've got work-life balance. The reason why you feel don't have work-life balance, and I'm going on my tangent, is the fact that you're sitting in the car for 2-3 hours a day. So for me, that is just like, it's ludicrous. Okay. And I understand that some businesses and some, business models and things require us to be together in a space. But I think lots of businesses are going to move away from that because whenever I do the work, as long as I produce the outcome that I needed to produce today, it's not going to matter whether I did it 3 o'clock in the morning or, in the middle of the day. It doesn't matter the fact that I spent time playing with my children, from 10 until 2, and then I worked after or before that. And parents can obviously also dovetail and say, let me work in the morning because I do my best work in the morning, and you better maybe later or in the evenings, whatever. You can work that out and sort of figure out what's going to work best in your situation. But sorry, before I continue on my tangent, let me just move on to the next question rather, because I'm very passionate about it. I think we're wasting so much time, and life is short, so we should stop wasting time. This thing about I have to drive an hour to come and see you, when it's really necessary, I'll do that with love, okay? But really, sometimes I walk out of there and I think to myself, we really could have done this over Zoom or even just had a phone call. We didn't have to get together, really. But anyway, so it depends on the situation, and you need to treat it like that depending on what's happening. So how do we stay motivated? You listen to me going off on this like, don't do this. This is nonsense. But anyway, so how do we stay motivated? Because now you're very alone maybe, or you have all this constant interruption that you're trying to navigate. How do we stay motivated, while working from home?
So it's quite interesting, because I would actually like to continue on your little soapbox here, is that when people, and it's so interesting because our workplace practices come from the Industrial Revolution, it means that we think of people as we need to drive them with a stick. in order to get stuff from them. Actually, very few people wake up in the morning and go, I wonder how poorly I can do at work today. People are actually intrinsically motivated to do well and to achieve. It's part of our limbic brain, because from when we were using an animal brain or our crocodile brain, we wanted to survive. And to survive, we must eat and we must take care of our young. So actually, intrinsically, people are fairly motivated, even if we think they aren't. And so when I'm not spending those 2 hours in the traffic, and I'm not under stress, because stress actually stops us from thinking, right? When we're in a flight, or fight, flight, or freeze mode, we actually slow down. We actually become less efficient. When I'm not spending 2 hours in a car getting agitated by the drivers around me, I already have more room to be motivated. So then I'm at home, I have more time to structure my day properly and to spend time without feeling like I'm compromising. That motivates me. The next step then comes from the perspective of, if we take a look at Maslow's hierarchy, in 1943, Abraham Maslow designed a hierarchy of needs. And he said there are a couple of things that we need in order to get to be motivated. And two of the big things that I think play a role here is level number 3. He speaks of belonging. And this is the problem with working from home, is that we disconnect from each other. And we don't feel like, oh, I belong to a team. I belong to an organization. I belong to a community. And that is why what you did when you started the call was so wonderful. Not only did you greet everyone who joined, which was easy, right? Anyone can do that. You remembered specific people having joined up. This is their second, this is their third. Hold on, why are you coming in from YouTube when you're LinkedIn? You are actually connecting with people. And I'm sure that you knew you were doing that, but I don't think people understand how potent that is. That you do this every morning for an hour and you've got hundreds of people coming and going, and yet you remember. You are connecting with individuals even across technology. And that's the belonging. That's the belonging thing. That's how we know. You've got Renata here today. Renata's been one of your speakers before. So it's that constant thread. And I think that's how we create belonging, or how we stay motivated, is keep yourself belonging to the team, the organization, the clients that you're working with. Understand that you need that. The other thing is, what keeps us motivated is recognition for what we know. So the moment that we are in a situation, even if we're just working with one other person in the team, to know that I am the person who actually runs the structure, the admin, I keep things ticking perfectly over. That's my role and it's valued. And on the other hand, I'm the person, I go and see the clients. I'm the one that forges forward. I go and knock on all the doors. That's who I am, and that's who I am valued for. That's very important. So in these kinds of teams, and I must say, I think in life in general, there's been too much focus that as the manager, you're more important than the street sweeper. Wow, where would we be without essential services? So even in your little business, even if you're only 2 or 3 people, always acknowledge the role that someone else plays, because without them, you'd have to do that work. Now, I'm also a strengths coach, and it's quite interesting that this is exactly one of the things that we do with strengths coaching, is we say all strengths are needed, all strengths are required in order to make a team work properly. So we need to get away from this mindset of, oh, she only makes the coffee, or he only does the admin, oh, he only goes and knocks on doors and sees the clients. Everyone is important, all the roles are important, and if our contribution is valued, we will stay motivated.
Yeah. I can just echo everything that you just said. And we also had that Johan Oosthuizen on episode 5, if I remember correctly. He's also a strengths coach. We also spoke about how do we use your strengths to get, So it's nice that you're also mentioning that again, because I don't think people understand the power of that. If there's one episode you need to go watch my interview with him as well, where we talk about this. Go listen to the podcast where I spoke to him as well about strengths and how we use that. Because that can change your life. It may seem, a lot of times, I don't know, it feels like we're ignoring the fluffy stuff, or we think things are fluffy stuff, and it's actually the things that will change your life and the trajectory of everything that you do. In 1 minute, so I'm giving you 1 minute. In 1 minute, Talk to me about goal setting. Now, how do we set goals? I hope you can do that in 1 minute. So that's your goal. Do it in 1 minute and go.
I think the important thing here is when we're a distributed team and we don't have as much interpersonal contact, we have to have clear goals and we have to be able to communicate those and agree them across the team so that we don't have double work happening inadvertently. And I think it's important that we understand that the more we communicate, the better. So over-communicate and over-clarify with people where you're at, what you're doing, what you're achieving, and where you're getting stuck. Because the problem is the moment that you go off on your own tangent, and it's the same as when there's a lack of transparency in a business. You could go off and do something that might not be of value to the team. Especially now, we can't afford to spend money and time doing things that are not important.
Well done. All right, but goal setting is important. That's important, and the communication that goes with that. I think that's the second part. Then we did speak about this, or we alluded to this next point that I want to ask you about, and that's this thing for flexi hours. I saw some stats yesterday where people were saying that 98% of people that they surveyed said, and I don't know exactly, was it in an industry, was it general, it doesn't matter. But 98% of people said that they either want to work remote or they would like to work remote, some of the time or things like that. But 98% of people were interested in that. Yet if I look at the business cultures and the way that businesses run, and, even you listen to someone like Gary Vaynerchuk, okay, who said, he said back in 2017 or was it earlier this year, I can't remember now, but somebody asked him about it before all of this happened. And he said he will never build a business like that because he needs the people in the office. That's what he thrives on. He wants everybody there, that cohesiveness. And he's had to change his story dramatically now that they can't work together because there's lockdown. And it's things like this where people realize what is actually possible. And I think often businesses hang on to this notion of this is how we've always done it. This is how our business works. So when we talk about flexi hours, it's what I explained earlier, where maybe you work in the morning, during the day you spend time with the family, or you help your kids, or you even now with homeschooling. And because we also need to understand, I think a lot of the things that we're talking about today has got to do with, what you would normally do in terms of a remote work or a work from home environment. But we also need to understand there's certain circumstances at the moment that we need to deal with. So you're not always going to be dealing with your kids. There may be au pairs or there may be things, but at the moment we don't have that. We screwed sort of at the moment. We are responsible for everything. But from that point, is this also something that you see? I mean, I only work with financial professionals for financial services businesses. But you work with businesses outside of our industry as well. Is this ringing true what I'm saying, or are businesses open to letting people do real flexi hours? If I say flexi hours, it means you work 2 hours in the morning, then you do something else, then you do. It's all about the outcomes, basically. It doesn't matter when you do it. So what do you see in practice?
I think we're still very much in 1814 there. I think a lot of businesses, especially businesses, funny enough, that have spent the money on getting a building or hiring office space, it's for them a waste not to have people in there. So I think that this is a bit of a flex for them. This is going to be very difficult for them. But I think there's I think there's a phase in between the two. So I think work from home permanently is an absolutely brilliant concept, but nothing stops us from saying, okay, so now we know when we go back, we know some of the problems we were facing. Can't we come in at 10 o'clock and leave at 6? Can't we come in at 6 and leave at 3? Can't we say Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays you work from the office, and Tuesdays and Thursdays you can work from home? So I think we must also just watch out that we don't get too locked down into this, we're going to go from always being together to always being apart. There are in-between steps that actually will make this more palatable. I'm thinking that from a certain perspective, from a small business ownership perspective, why spend the money on an expensive office and getting people together? Take half the amount of money, put it into a co-working space that's centrally located, and have people come in and out. And, you can buy sort of like time for your office. So not all the same people always have to be there every day. I think business culture is going to get a bit of a smack in the face with this. And I think it's an ideal opportunity for us to put up our hands and say, okay, what are the other options? Not just working from home entirely. And I think some businesses are going to go back and go, oh, that didn't work. And because of this frustrating situation that this is not remote work, it was just work from home very quickly. And I think some of them are going to go, wow, this works so great, I'm just not renewing my lease. I think it just depends also on the type of business and who people are. I think we've also got to understand that there are people in business who need to be around other people. And so there might always be a need for this. I need to be around people, and therefore I will build a little business of people around me.
Yeah, and I also think that businesses should be very wary to say, well, it doesn't work, so that's proof it doesn't work. Because like your confirmation bias, you're looking for the information that's confirming your view. Rather go look where you could have done it better and how can you make it work. If you've done everything possible, then you decide that it doesn't work for your kind of business. And I guess some businesses will know that it doesn't work. I think it's going to be very hard if you repair cars and do things like that to work from home, although a lot of them do. So anything's possible today. It's like you can make a business out of anything, any hobby that you can think of on this earth, you can make money from if you really wanted to. So I think the same thing here is that there's a lot of these options that people will have, where a lot of businesses, and you're 100% correct, not all of them, but I think the majority of businesses will be able to work from here. But I mean, then what happens when we move past this crisis and we into the normal way of how we do things? Are people going to go back to the way we did it before? Are we going back to 18 whatever, or are we now saying, oh, hey, hold on, there's some new ways of things here? The first thing I would say, and I never thought about it like that when you said, particularly businesses who bought properties, who bought buildings, who's got long-term leases, they would obviously go like, no, like we work here together. And I understand it because it's a financial thing. But that may very well be not the best thing for their business, actually. So if you can reduce, you can still have an office, but maybe you need a lot smaller space. So you only want a space where people can come to if they feel they want to connect with people, or they want to set up a meeting where they want to get together. You don't need this massive building or this massive space, probably. And there's lots of things that we haven't touched on about. I guess there's lots of other things that goes around this about confidentiality of information and protection of information, that kind of stuff. I mean, there's lots to consider, yeah. But where do you see things going once we get back to, call it, normal?
I think there's a very interesting fact from neuroscience that I think is going to play a role in this. And that is that it takes 21 days for a neural pathway to form in your brain. So when you want to stop smoking or when you want to start exercising, you've got to do it for 21 days non-stop in order for your body to have built a new neural pathway and replace whatever was in its place. So I think that actually, because this is specifically 3 weeks, I think a lot of thinking would have changed. Of course, there's now talk of extending it even further. And I think the longer we stay in this phase, the more likely the possibility that people are just going to adjust to this way of doing it. And I think let's not disregard the option that I also mentioned earlier of maybe people will then create flexi time, or certain days work from home, certain days. You're going to get the early adopters that are going to go full in. They're going to go, why the heck even go back to the office? And I think you're going to have then people that will slowly start adopting versions of this. And yes, unfortunately, I think there'll be one or two companies that, because they have an office space, because they have some form of routine that they've designed, they won't go and review and move forward. They'll just go, okay, now let's get back to normal, which I don't think we'll ever see again, actually.
Sorry, I must say that I'm pressing the wrong button here. Trying to talk and listen and produce can be very, sometimes it gets like, okay, where am I? I mean, I think you mentioned earlier, and I agree with you, I think things are going to change dramatically. Even if only 30% of businesses change, that is still a dramatic change, and it's going to have a huge impact on what we do. I think that is, if you want to get productivity up, that's the way to do it. And we would have to coach people and guide people through the process to get them comfortable with this new way of doing things. And the one thing we need to be careful of is that now we don't go into micromanagement mode. I think if you want to test that your button is in green, it's got a little white dot in the middle. What are you doing? So be very careful of that. Earlier, you mentioned that something about training programs or something. So I don't know. I heard it so with one ear. Is there? Did you launch anything there, or is there anything that you offer people that they can go and look at? In terms to help them with this if they want more guidance and sort of deeper or more comprehensive information. More details.
Definitely. So I launched this week training. It's called Managing Remote Teams. And that is for new managers or people who are new to managing remote teams and have been dropped in this fairly quickly. And it's a bunch of videos and infographics. So really sort of quick, hit the ground running training. And then the other module is onboarding remote teams. And that takes a look to a lot of what we actually spoke about today. How do I set up my office? How do I stay motivated? How do I stay engaged? How do I help team members stay engaged? So those two modules are available as online learning. They're about an hour, hour and a half each. And really, once you've gone through that, there's quite a lot that one can do to just sort of fast forward the adoption of remote working.
Great stuff. Where can people get hold of you, Innocent, if they want to make contact with you, or they've got more questions, or they need help, or they want to get access to this program or something? Where can they get hold of you?
They can reach out to me. I see you are displaying my email address. It's innocent@performforward.com. Please don't forget the second E at the end of innocent. I sometimes wish my name was Mary. So if they reach out to me, and if they do so by the end of the next 2 weeks, and they mention that they heard of this on your program, then what I will do is I will give them the links to the training as well as a half an hour free consultation to answer any questions they may have specifically, because some of these instances are fairly unique. So more than happy to accommodate everyone that way.
Awesome stuff. I think that's great, guys. So if anybody needs some help with this more, you want to just maybe chat to her and have a few questions and that, you're more than welcome to get in touch. And I think on that note, I want to say thank you, guys. Just please, if you can, specifically on YouTube as well, if you can like the video. I should have asked that at the beginning. I'm very bad at this. Help me to get the video out there. But when you comment, when you chat, when you like, those kind of things helps me a lot. I did ask the guys on LinkedIn, please hit the like button, or if you hold in on it and you want to react, so you want to clap hands, or you want to love this, or say it's insightful, whatever it is. But the more you can interact with the video, the more people will see it, and the more we can reach people, because that's what it's about for me. If I can reach one more person every day, then we're making a bigger difference, and that's really what this is about. Innocent, I really feel from my side that this was a fantastic session, definitely one of the best we've done thus far. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. I just want to see there's quite a number of comments. Obviously, it's a pleasure. I'm not going to get through all of the stuff, so maybe afterwards. I see LinkedIn has now changed their way, because previously all the comments that happened during the video would only show when you watch the recording, and then it would come up like it's a live feed. Now they do show them below the video afterwards, so you don't have to watch the video in order to see all the comments. So maybe you can go in on the video afterwards and just go answer some comments if there's something that we missed, if you don't mind, so we can interact further there. So I'm not going to waste more time. I need to get to Mr. Hugo van Zyl. Also looking forward to that discussion. But Innocent, thank you so much. I think it was fantastic. Thank you to everybody for all your participation and all of that. I really appreciate it. So go big. Give this everything that you've got. We can make this work, and I think we're going to be better off for it for sure. So really thank you from my side. Innocent, I hope you have a fantastic day, and thank you very much for sharing all your expertise and knowledge with us.
Thanks, Francois, and thanks everyone who was listening in. It's been great being here with you.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, and have a good day.